We are in one of the patient bedrooms, and I'm going to show you the operation of the lighting switches in here. This single button here, which is not a dimmer, turn on, and that's the overhead light by the window. It's a vacancy sensor, so you could either turn it off or it will turn off automatically in 15 minutes. The other switch.
Oh, just 15 minutes?
15 minutes of no activity.
Of no activity, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, while you're in here,
Yeah,
it'll keep resetting.
There's no way to adjust it?
Yeah, there is.
There is.
We'll come back to that.
All right.
This one here is a split button, which that's because it's a dimmer. And this is the recessed light in the center of the room. This side has the up arrow, and this will raise it up. And this is the down arrow, and this will dim it.
And on off?
And the same thing, yeah, if you tap, it'll fast forward it to off, or if you tap the up, it'll kind of just fast forward it up to where it was. Same thing, it's currently set for 15 minutes.
Right.
If you wanted to change that, you could, one of two ways. The proper way would be to take this faceplate off, although these are security Torx
That's all right.
heads,
We have them
as long as you have them. And then you pry this cover off of the switch. And behind it, there's a sticker on the switch, all right, that tells you, and then there's little switch settings, little tiny dip switches, and a variety. Up, one down is 15 minutes, the other way is 5 minutes, the other way is 20 minutes. So you could change those settings, all right? So that's how you would do that. You could also, while you're at it, change the sensitivity. The other sets of dip switches are for the sensitivity, for the infrared sensitivity and they're separate, of course. This night light here, this switch is controlled by a switch back in the nurses, the prep, med prep area, and I'll show you what switch that is. So this one's turned on from a master. It does all the bedrooms. Okay. So that's it. That's a bedroom.
Okay.
All right. The bathroom, as you just saw, is the same switch that I just showed you, the single on-off, but it's set for automatic because it's a public safety issue. So that's automatic. Bedrooms are not. Okay? All right, we're in the visitor quiet room, and this has a dimmer, different type than I just showed you. Again, it's set as a vacancy sensor, so that means when you enter the room, you need to turn the light on. And if you just tap it on the top, it'll go up to where it was last used. If you hold the bottom, it'll dim, and there's a scale here so you have a reference of what level you're at. If you hold it. So like I said, the sensor will shut it off like that. It'll go off. When you walk back in, if you want that same setting, and this applies to offices and all the other rooms that have the same switch, if you just tap it, it'll remember where it was. All right, and if you don't want it to fade up, which is only 2 seconds anyway, just double tap it. It'll shoot right up to full. Okay? All right, next room. Yeah, these are the same, but there's one additional thing. So we're in the activity room. And there's multiple zones in here. So we have 2 dimmers in here, and that would be the 2x4s near the window. And this switch is for the 2x4s on the inside of the room. And then this single switch, which isn't a dimmer, is just the counter recessed lights. Now the difference in this room is there's a daylight sensor, and that's that little unit right there on that tile right next to the light. And what that's doing is, that's the reason I showed you this one is the ones by the window. What that will do is that takes into account daylight, and it will automatically dim those lights right there according to how bright the light is coming in from the windows.
The sun was out, it'd be light. It'd be dim.
Today we can't, today we're not seeing it, but if it was a bright sunny day, you would see when I turn these two on, you would see those. They take a few seconds and you would see those automatically kind of dim out a little bit. So if the room looks uneven, there's nothing wrong, it's the daylight sensor's doing its job. Okay?
Wait, which one's the daylight sensor?
The smallest one, yes.
Oh, yeah.
And then in this room also, this set of switches, it's an electronic three-way at the other door. So same set of switches over there. So if I turn it on here, I could turn it off there, vice versa. Okay, so next room. And then just so you know, there's another daylight sensor over there in this observation area. So those lights, which are currently out, the 2x2s, they're on a sensor. There's a sensor up over there. I think that's the only other, and then other than the cafe, which we'll go to next, has a sensor, daylight sensor. Okay, next room. So this group of buttons right here are primarily for this, the observation area,
The common area.
the desk here. So just so you know what they do, plus in here.
All right.
So I forgot about, we're in the dark, I forgot. Okay, so that's inside here. And there's also one by the door there.
Yeah.
And then this one here is the recessed lights around and they're on a dimmer. So these two are dimmers. And this one is the, I guess that's called the porch.
I see. And they're all on dimmers, right?
Except for the porch, those are just on off. Okay. So that's these.
These nice.
And then we're going to go over here.
They'll break them. Probably, yeah. They'll break them.
And then this group of buttons here, what they are, these are the master controls for the different wings. So, and they're all the same order. So this one is the hallway lights, the overhead lights. This one is at the very end of each hall, and that would be, each hall. There's some resets lights by the windows. So that's the next button. And then this one is the sign lights, which illuminate the window, the door, the room numbers. And then this one is that night light I was telling you about in every room. So this one is here, 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 and here. All right, so they just repeat. So if you turn everything on, everything in all the bedrooms should be on.
Blinking lights.
Yeah, I was hitting a little too fast, I think. Oh, I have a cheat sheet that I think it should be in the manuals. These are actually, that's right, these are spares. This is actually both hallways. And then this column is both of these hallways. And then these three buttons are actually more of this public area. And then these, the reason they're flashing, these are all just spares. That's what it was. Yeah, just coming back to me now. So when it flashes like that, it means there's no program in it. Okay. Yeah, that's why there's a dimmer in here, because these do get bright. We're in the cafeteria on the second floor, which again is the same as third, fourth, and fifth. This button here, which is not a dimmer, is the counter lighting, just on off. And this one here is a dimmer, which is the seating lighting, and it's on the daylight sensor that I showed you in the other room. So when you tap it to on, the daylight sensor kind of takes over and kind of adjusts the level depending on the lighting. And this here applies too. You could, as you can see, it's still coming up, still calculating. But you could also override that if it's just not giving you the light you need and it's just too dark in here. Maybe they're not having lunch, they're having a meeting or something. Just double tap it and it ignores the daylight sensor, and then it'll just stay on until it times out. Then it starts over again. Okay. Okay. We're in a work area, and there's two switches here. This one here, which is not a dimmer, this turns on the outlets in all the workstations. So if the desk light is left on, this will turn it on and off, or turn it on at night, off at night. It also works off the motion sensor. And then,
The outlets too?
not all the outlets, just the switched outlet, which is primarily where the desk light is plugged in. So if they plug in say a heater or a fan, at least the sensor will shut that off after nobody's here, and it won't run all night.
Gotcha.
And then this is a dimmer for the rest of the lighting. Again, as you can see, it's kind of working the daylight sensor is saying it thinks it's too bright. That's why I shut off. But this is the dimmer for all these lights. But it's on a daylight sensor, so that's why it may do this during the day, unless you double tap it and it'll stay up. Okay, and there's another three-way at the other end. So all the zones, all the switches that I've just showed you that turn lights on and off, all come to this panel on the second floor and turn these relays on and off. So what you're looking at is 48 relays. You can see them. This is the coil part of the relay. Behind the dead front is the high voltage side. So, just so you know where the status is, relay 1, which is the general lighting, which means that's one of the hallways we were just playing around with. You can override it from here. So if I hit that, the blue light out means the relay's open, meaning the light's off. Turn it on from here. So in the event the switches don't work, or a cart, stretcher gets rolled into and crushes the switch, at least you can turn the lights on from here. I mean, in addition to that, they are on a time clock anyway. We'll go over that shortly. So they're going to turn on by themselves regardless. But if you, getting into some troubleshooting, if you find you have a bad relay, now let's just say number 1 doesn't work, you would need to replace the relay, and it's just a matter of taking this cover off, pushing the relay through the other side, taking the wires off, putting them on a new relay. Now this system just inherently has spares. So for example, 48 spares. So this one here, you could actually, don't put the wires from here to here because it's programmed. So you need to take this relay and just put it in the number 1 position, because they're all the same. Not much else to do here, maintenance-wise. You know, if you got to a point where there was problems, at least you know where the panel is. If you had a tech on the phone, he'll probably ask you if this light is blinking, if this is blinking, and so on and so forth, and at least you'll know where to look. But normally that's what it normally looks like. Is the ones that are on have blue lights, the ones that are not, they do not. All right, the next thing I'm going to show you is your time schedule, which you have. You guys have a remote, or at least 3 of them, that should be turned over. at some point. And what you can do on this, you can do a lot of things on this. The two main things I want to show you what you can do with them is adjust the sensitivity of those sensors I showed you that are in the ceiling. Okay, not the wall switches, those I showed you do right from the wall. The ones that are in the ceiling, infrared, we can communicate to them and adjust the settings. But since we're here, let me show you how to do the time schedule, which has already been put in there. What it's set for is the lights turn on at 7 a.m. and the switches become on only. So those switches there are switches that we kind of just walk right by in the corridors. During the day, between 7 a.m. and 8 p.m., they do not work, meaning they don't turn the lights off. From 8 p.m., when we go into what's called after hours mode, then they become on-off switches. So people can, if they're here after hours, they can turn the lights on and turn them off if they choose to turn them back off. But during the day, you can't just walk by a switch and inadvertently turn a light off.
That's just in
In
the
the
common
whole-
areas though.
In the common areas,
Gotcha.
for safety reasons.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's between 7 a.m. 8 p.m. If you want to change those times, if things change here, you would use this remote. Now, I don't know if you can see any of this. And the reason I'm in the panel is because we need to communicate with the little infrared to infrared, and that's why we're here. So, this has a lot of menu items, and we're going to go down, use the up and down arrows, left and right arrows, down to, on this first page, we're going to hit more, and go down to panel setup. And then it actually tells you, point to any IR enabled device, meaning this, and hit select. Select is the center button. So you don't have to change this stuff, location settings, date and time, that's all. It's already been done. But the next thing is go into panel programming. Choose schedules or holidays. We're going to choose schedules. It says point to the IR device. And I need to, I'll also, if it's not in the manual, I'll have to give you this just goes by event numbers. So I used event 2 as floor 2 on, and I used event 12 as floor 2 off. And then for the third floor, I used event 3, floor 3 on, and 13 is floor 3 off, and so on and so forth, 14 and 15. So right now I just went into event 2, which I said was floor 2 on, and it's telling me the event type is normal hours. So those are the choices you have. Normal hours, meaning that's where I have that switch off programmed in. And then there's after hours, which is the 8 p.m. But you do one event at a time. So event 2 is normal hours at 7 o'clock. And it's group 2. Group 2 is also floor 2's group. Now I'm going to give you a cheat sheet on this if they didn't put it in the manual. But primarily you're here, I'm just showing you this, so if you need to change the time, this is where you do it. So if you wanted to make this 6 o'clock, you could just change it to 6 o'clock. Use the arrows and change it to 6 o'clock. You want to go to the next event? So now we're on event 3, which now we're talking to the third floor on, and so on and so forth. So that's how
Everything is run on all the floors from down
everything
here.
is programmed out of this
Down
panel,
here,
though.
okay.
That's the thing you got to remember.
Yeah.
So it's from this panel. Because if you try to plug this into other panels, then they're going to be fighting with each other. But this is the master panel for 2, 3, 4, and 5. 1 is its own system. So when we do 1, you're only talking to floor 1. Okay. So like I said, the times are set. I just wanted you to know where to look in the event someone says, hey, can you change these times? We want the lights to come on earlier or go off later. Okay, so that's how you would do it. Okay. Okay, we just happen to be back in the activity room. I think we were here before, or no, not really. Back to the sensor. I'm going to show you how to adjust the sensor with the remote. So when you turn this unit on, which is a little side button here, the first thing that comes up is sensor configuration, and these are the sensors I'm talking about. So just aim this at the sensor, press the enter button, and the first thing that comes up is current settings. Hit current settings, and it pulls the information out of the sensor. So right now this one is set for 20 minutes, so that means 20 minutes of no activity. It'll turn the lights off. The next setting down is the passive infrared sensitivity. It's defaulted at 90%, which is the average use. That's your infrared, that's the body heat. It'll detect that. The next one down is ultrasonic, which is airwaves, which I've actually, the default is 70%. I've actually lowered this one to 20% because it's near that register. So it may, apparently it's not on, but it may pick up a draft and then keep the lights on longer than they should be. So, but to make these adjustments, you just go to whatever line, wherever I'm highlighted, use the up and down arrow, and then the sideways arrows to raise and lower the level. And then we move the cursor down to send, hit send, and it sends the new information up. The other two items on here are trigger, meaning what will trigger the sensor, which doesn't apply here because we have to turn the lights on manually. But then re-trigger is the one you could change, and it's set for infrared or ultrasonic, meaning if the lights are on, it needs to see either an infrared pass by or an ultrasonic, sound wave to keep it, so, to keep starting the time clock over again. Once it sees neither one of those, that's when it turns the lights off. Okay, but that's how you change all the parameters on here. Just hit send, and it will say, once you do it and it says configuration sent. So we know it's been changed. Okay. So all the other items on here, for the most part, have already been done. They've already been done through my laptop, which I have a record of everything. You can undo a lot of things I've done with this. So that's why I'm just pointing out the two most common uses, and that would be changing your time clock and some of these sensors. Once the air's on, or maybe the heat's on, people may complain the lights keep turning off, or, and that's too soon, or they stay on all night, and that's where you may need to come and fine-tune this on your own after I'm gone. So those are the two main items on here. Any questions on anything?
Give us like a little booklet on that? Or?
Yeah, there's a 848-page manual
nice. Okay.
downstairs for you to study.
Never mind.
It is
We got a light fixture cover hanging here.
device.
Huh?
Self-explanatory,
Yeah.
user-friendly device.
It's user-friendly once you use it a couple times. Because like I said, you're not going to go through everything in here. Just what you need to use, and I think it's just fine. Okay, I think we covered all the rooms, all the varieties of switches and configurations on the system.